Right, we're on. So, this is a good quote because it's an easy one to remember, right? So, when he says that there will be chaos, Macduff's response is this: oh, Scotland, Scotland. Remember, the O is always about emotion. So, he feels actual pain, right? Actual pain. Like, he loves his country so much that when he's told what will happen to it, he actually is in pain for it, right? Then Malcolm says, that's how it's going to be. Like, get over it. That's what kind of king I'm going to be. And he says, wow, right? We've lost all of our hope. Macbeth is a tyrant, bloody sceptred, right? Malcolm is as bad as Macbeth. He's lost all hope. Again, oh, my breast, thy hope ends here. So he's devastated by this, right? Now, of course, he wants to restore Malcolm to the throne because Malcolm is the person that should be king. He's the natural heir to the throne. So Macduff goes, what do? If I do the right thing, I put a worse person in charge of Scotland, or do I leave Macbeth there, who's the wrong person and bad? So he feels distraught about it. And then Malcolm says this. You'll enjoy this, right? Macduff. Are you ready? Yeah. Oh, okay. Macduff. This, underline please, this noble passion, child of integrity, have from my soul wiped the black scruples, reconciled my thoughts to thy true, good, truth and honour. So Malcolm says, Macduff, you are so noble. What's wrong? You're so noble, you're so of such integrity, that listening to you has cleared my soul of my evil, right? It is from my soul wiped the black scruples. Now a scruple is like a belief. So your honour has cured me, right? So he says that he's been cured of all evil thoughts through Macduff's honour, right? Devilish Macbeth, good quote from Macbeth, by many of these trains have sought to win me to his power, and modest wisdom plucks from his over-credulous haste. But God above, deal between thee and me, for even now I put myself to thy direction. So he kind of almost like pledges to Macduff. He says, in God's name, I am your man, right? I want to be like you. I want to be honourable like you. And then speak my own distraction. Here, abjure, this is good. Now, abjure is a word which means to give up, right? As in like to, if I give up my property, right? To give up the taints and blames I laid upon myself for strangers to my nature. So he says, the things I said about myself are not true, right? They are against my nature. Now this is, I told you, I struggle with this scene, right? I find it very strange. So he says to Macduff, I'm going to be a terrible king. I'm going to have all the women, all the money, all the power, blah. And then Macduff goes, oh no, Scotland, oh, vote. He goes, Macduff, hearing you say such honourable things has cleared my soul of all its wicked deeds, right? Macbeth tried to make me bad, right? Devilish Macbeth tried to make me like him, but now I'm clear, I'm good. I've been almost like depossessed. Then he says some things that you will enjoy. I am yet unknown to women. What does that mean? I am unknown to women. I am unknown to, yes? He's a virgin, yeah. So when, the bit before when he's like, I'm going to have everybody's wives and daughters, yeah. Then he's like, I'm a virgin. He's like, I don't even know what a woman is. I wouldn't know where to put it if I was asked to, right? Never was forsworn, scarcely have coveted what was mine own. So he says here that he wants no possessions, right? He says that not only am I not greedy, but I've never even wanted my own things. and no time broke my faith, would not betray the devil to his fellow, and delight in no less in truth than life. So he says that he's basically like a good person, right? He said everything I said before, all that stuff I said before was a lie. I'm actually a really good person. I'm a virgin, and I don't want stuff, and I never lied in my life, apart from when I just lied. Some of you are probably sat there thinking, what the hell is going on here? And I agree. Right, where do we get to? Here we go. My first false speaking was this upon myself. What I am truly is thine and my poor country's to command. So he says here that he's going to be a servant, right? Now you might hear this quite a lot. When someone like King Charles talks about being the king, he says, oh, well, I'm the king, but I'm a servant to the country. I'm your servant, right? It's a duty that I fulfill, right? So he says, I'm going to be a servant, which is how a king is supposed to be. Macbeth is not a servant to his people, he's a ruler of his people, okay? Whither indeed, before thy here approach, old Siward, with 10,000 warlike men. Now remember, old Siward is the Earl of North... Yeah, hold on a sec. Is the Earl of Northumberland. So 10,000 warlike men, already at a point, were setting forth, but now will together, and the chance of goodness be like our warranted quarrel. Why are you silent? So he says, right, we're gonna go to war, and we're gonna battle for goodness, right? So me and you, Duff, me, you. So Malcolm, Macduff, Siward, and the English are going to go up. They're going to overthrow Macbeth, and they're going to restore the kingdom of goodness. Then he goes, why are you so quiet? And Macduff says, such welcome and unwelcome things at once is hard to reconcile. He's confused, right? Because the welcome, of course, is this stuff here, and the unwelcome was all the lies. He says, I'm a little bit confused, Malcolm, because you just told me you're going to be basically a rapist and a thief, and now you're telling me you're a virgin and a good person. So I'm slightly confused. Okay. Enter a doctor. Right. Would anyone like to be my doctor? A doctor? Now, if you want to be the doctor, you have to have a sort of gravity to you, a professional person. Do you mean doctor? Right, Joseph, you're my doctor. Who was my Macduff from the other day? Must be Macduff. Michael, yes, you're my Macduff. Right. Okay, let's go. Enter a doctor. Now again, some more of this stuff is kind of weird, fella, but there's some interesting things as well. Enter a doctor. Well anon, here comes the king forth, I pray you. This is the king of England. Okay, so where is the king? Doctor.
I saw there are a crew of rich souls with status few. Their malady convinces the great essay of art, but untouched, such sanctity hath heaven given his hand. They presently amend.
Right, now the king they're talking about here is a guy called Edward the Confessor. So this was a real king of England, and the belief about Edward, ready for this, was that he could cure the sick with his touch. So where is the king? Genuinely, where is the king? He says there are some wretched souls. Now to be wretched means to be sick, like leprosy, like right? And the king is going around touching sick people, right? Healing them, like Jesus, right? So in a way, it has this kind of like almost like this Christ-like image of the king. Thank you, doctor. Exit the doctor. Well done, doctor. Right, Macduff. Yeah, what's the disease that's being cured? What's the disease he's curing people? Tis called evil. Evil. The Black Death was happening at the time, which is true. There was there literally was at the time. There was the plague. One of the great mysteries of Shakespeare is that when Shakespeare was writing his plays, it was in the middle of the Black Death, of the plague. The plague wiped out a third of the population, and yet he never talks about it in his place, ever. He never mentions it, and people don't know why. One of the theories is that when you're surrounded by so much death, when you go to the theatre, what you want is entertainment. You don't want to be reminded about the fact that a third of the people have died of plague, right? So like imagine like a really crazy serious COVID, like where a third of the people died from it, and if you had it, you were like quarantined inside your house. Yeah. There you go. England. So what's the disease the king is curing? You still with me? 'Tis called evil. 'Tis called evil. A most miraculous work in this good king, right? So he's able to cure evil, right? Which often since my here remain in England, I have seen him do. So he's like, it's not a lie, I've seen him do it, right? I've seen him cure evil in people. How he solicits heaven, himself best knows, but strangely visited people as swollen and ulcerous, pitiful for the eye, the mere despair of surgery he cures, hanging a golden stamp about their necks. Now this is how a king should be, okay? So this, if you like, is what we would call a foil, really important word in literature, a foil to Macbeth. So Macbeth is a king, kills people, seeks power. Edward the Confessor cures people, right? When they've got ulcers on their faces and they're swollen. Hanging a golden stamp out their necks, put on with holy prayers. Yeah. A foil is somebody's opposite. Fair question, right? It's an opposite. Now what you do in literature is, if you want to, like, if you had a really, really short person, a really, really tall person, by putting the tall person next to the short person seems even shorter. If I had two short people, he seems taller, right? And what you do is, if you get a horrible bad king like Macbeth, and you put him next to a really good king, it makes Macbeth seem even more evil. And that's what a foil is. The job of the character of the foil is to highlight the quality of the other person. Okay? 'Tis spoken to the succeeding royalty, he leaves the healing benediction. With this strange virtue, okay, virtue is like opposite of a sin, he hath a heavenly gift of prophecy, and sundry blessings hang about his throne, and speak of him full of grace. So again, this is a good king, right? So he is a religious man, he cures the sick, he prays to God. God has given him power to fix and cure people, and everyone loves him, right? Now, of course, the key thing is, he's the opposite of Macbeth, right? Enter Ross. My countryman, but yet I know him not. What do we think Ross has come down to do? Yeah? Yeah. So Ross is going to bring him the news of his family. Ah, ever gentle cousin, welcome. I know him now. Good God! But time removed the means to make us strangers. Need a Ross. You want me a Ross? Go on. Say again, sorry. Correct. So Ross is now also a traitor. But remember, Ross is already a traitor because he goes to Lady Macduff and says, "Run away, murderers are coming." Yes. Yes, you can. Right, Ross. Amen. Yeah. So he says basically, what's the news, right? What's the news from Scotland?
Alas, poor country, almost afraid to know herself. It cannot be called our mother, but our greater. We're nothing but who knows nothing. Was once seen to smile, their sighs and groans, and shrieks that ring the air, and made yet loud, and a violent soul sing and never ecstasy, and dead man's mouth, is the scare asked for him, and the good man's eyes, fire that killed flowers and cats, trying what he was the second.
Good. So he talks about Scotland, and you'll see again the idea is that it's terror, right? Macbeth has a reign of terror. So notice this, right? So poor country, right? It cannot be called our mother but our grave. Now the idea is the country is your mother because you are born in the country, but the country is now their grave. So more people are dying than are being born, right? He says sighs and groans and shrieks, right? So they're all sounds of horror. Rend the air. So the air is full of shrieks and groans and sighs, right? Violent sorrow, good men's lives expire before the flowers in their caps. So if I put a flower in my hat, I'm more likely to die before the flower dies, right? So the life of a flower is longer than the life of a man. So there is death everywhere. Macduff. What's the newest grief?
The other now is a struggle to speak. Each minute seems a minute.
How does my wife?
Why well,
Oh, right. How's my wife? Now, this is really weird, right? Because Ross knows that his wife is dead. So Macduff goes, how's my wife? And Ross goes, well. How are my children? They're well. Right? Why? That's obviously a lie, right? Like, why does he do that? Why does he say they're well when they're not, when they're dead? Yeah. I think it's too hard for him to tell him, right? Imagine telling a person that everything they know and love is dead, right? So when Macduff says to him, "How's my wife?" He's like, "She's well." It's almost like a panic, like it's a lie, but it's almost like a panic. It's like, I wasn't expecting him to ask me. Macduff. So he's like, what? So he's surprised. He's like, I expected Macbeth to do something to them, right? Remember, the tyrant is Macbeth, right? Has not battered at their peace, so killed them, right? To batter at the pieces to kill, or to terrorise. Ross?
they're well at peace and that is nothing.
Now that, of course, is true, right? Because when he leaves, they are alive, but he knows that they're dead. This word here has literally nothing to do with the M word at all. Like, it's a completely different word. To be a niggard, right, means to be cheap. There was a thing in the news very recently. This is really interesting. Where there was a thing in the news a few years ago when Nigel Farage, the politician, was talking, and he kept using that word, and people were like, "Why using that word?" And he goes, "It means cheap. It's not the other word." And they go, "Yeah, but it sounds a bit like it, so maybe pick a different word to use," right? But literally, there's not any link at all between them. They're just two words that sound similar. One is an awful word, and one is an old-fashioned word for cheap. Okay. So Macduff says, "Why aren't you speaking? Right? Like, why are you being cheap with your words? Use more words." Ross.
When I came, they were to transport the tidings, which I heavily bore. There ran a rumour, the journey first to know
Bit louder, please, stuff. A rumour. Just a bit louder. I can't hear you.
There ran a rumour of many worthy fellows carried out, which was to believe witness the rather, for that I saw the tyrant's power of foot. Now is the time of your iron Scotland.
Yeah, your eye in Scotland would create soldiers, right? Make our women fight, doff their dire distress. So the argument here is that Macduff has influence. Now, when he says your eye, what he means is to be seen. So if you come back to Scotland, right, you're so inspiring as a person that people love you so much that you would actually make people fight. You would make men fight and women fight, right? So he would raise a revolution. So Ross has come down to persuade Macduff to come back up, He says, with you we could have a revolution. Be it their comfort, we are coming thither. We are coming. Gracious England have lent us good seawood and 10,000 men. We are coming. An older and better soldier none that Christendom gives out.
Without good answer, his comfort with him. His comfort in that. I have worries that how it is.
Yeah, so he says, unfortunately, you've given me good news. This is good news, right? But he says, I wish I could answer with the like. So he says, I've got bad news, right? My news is so bad that it would be howled out in the desert. Duff?
What concerns us, and the thing we cause, or is it a brief news due to confusion with?
No, mine that's honest. Whatever shares some.
Yeah, so he says here, right, is the news general? So is it about Scotland, or is it a grief for some single breast? So is it for one person? And Ross says the main part pertains to you alone. So everyone's sad about it, but really it's for you.
If we do keep it look down, quickly make me happy.
Yeah, so this is, now we're going to get lots of quotes here about his honour. So there's a sense with Macduff that he's kind of like a positive version of masculinity. He's like, if there's bad news, tell me the news, right? I want to deal with it. He doesn't want to avoid it or deflect. He wants to deal with that news. Ross?
Let not your ears despise when it comes to others, but shall possess them with perfect sound and
Yeah.
Tom, I guess that
pass with surprise. The welcome days savage and slow. The late man the world and the glory of his mother.
Yeah, so he says, I think the way he says it is harsh, right? He says, your castle is surprised, which means that it's been attacked. Your wife and babes savagely slaughtered. Savagely slaughtered, right? Rather than saying your wife and children are dead, he deliberately makes it sound quite intense. Savagely, like by animals, slaughtered. To relate the matter were on the quarry of these murdered deer to add the death of you. So it's that powerful that he worries it will actually kill Macduff. Merciful heaven! What man? Never pull your hat upon your brows. Give sorrow words. The grief that does not speak whispers the overfought heart and breaks it. So he says you have to express emotion. He says, wow, right? So Macduff is all like, tell me the news. And Malcolm's like, oh my God, come on, man, let it out, right? Let it out. Feel the pain. Macduff? Yeah, wife. Look at that. So this is about the brutality of this attack, right? Wife, children, servants, all that could be found. Yeah, so he feels guilty because he's away from them, right? And I must be from thence. My wife killed too. So he already says your wife. So there's a sense here of like his like dismay, a sort of almost like a denial, like a sort of denial about it. Be comforted. Let's make us medicines of our great revenge to cure this deadly grief. So Malcolm says, we will get revenge, right? So you will have revenge on Macbeth, and that revenge is a cure. So we can fix your pain by getting revenge. Now, what most people would argue now is that if somebody kills somebody important, close to you, and you kill that person, it doesn't make you feel better, right? But that's what Malcolm says to him. Okay.
You have no children. All my pretty ones. You say, oh, how tight. What all my pretty chickens and their dams at once your feet.
Yeah. So he's really pained by this, right? This is quite a key line here of Macbeth. This idea that he has no children, almost like he's a monster, right? He doesn't care for things. He doesn't have his own children. All my pretty ones, all, right? So you got all repeated, all, right? So all my pretty chickens. Now there he's talking about his children, right? Not he doesn't actually care about the chickens. And maybe he does, right? All their pretty chickens and their mother in one fell swoop. So this idea that you can lose everything so easily, right? The 1 minute he has a family and children, a caste and servants, the next minute he loses everything. Dispute it like a man. Be a man, right? What does a man do? I'm being a little bit ironic here, right? What does a man do? Someone kills your whole family, and I'm a man. What does a man do, yeah? Yeah. So he says, be angry, right? So don't be sad, be angry. Get revenge. That's what a man does. And Macduff says, good. That's a great line, right? So, again, he's quite a modern character, right? Because he says, don't worry, I'll get my revenge. But I must feel it as a man, right? I have to like, embrace the horror and sadness of it, right? I'm not a monster like Macbeth. Now, of course, the key thing here, again, I'm use the F word, right, is the foil. Because Macbeth feels nothing. So for us to like Macduff, he has to be the opposite of Macbeth. He's someone with emotions and feelings. He says, yes, I'll get my revenge, but first of all, I have to deal with the sadness of it. Michael.
I cannot but remember such regret that were most precious to me, whose having looked on as a not take their heart. Simple myself, they were all struck with you, not that I am, not for their own but the night, God also on my face, having less than one.
Good. So he says, where was God in this, right? So did heaven look on and not stop it happening? Right? How could this happen? Right? Sinful Macduff, they were all struck for thee. Not that I am. Not for their own demerits, but for mine. Fell slaughter on their souls. So he feels guilt. He says, my children and my wife were killed because of me. Because I ran away to England, they were killed. Right? It is my fault. Now again, that's another example of a foil. Right? Macduff is a man who takes responsibility for his actions. He blames himself. He owns it. Let this be the whetstone of your sword. Let grief convert to anger. Blunt not the heart, enrage it. Does anyone know what a whetstone is? Have you heard of a whetstone? Very good, right? You use it to sharpen weapons. It's literally a stone that you rub against a sword. So he says, okay, you're sad, but let the sadness sharpen your sword, right? Let your grief convert to anger. So use the sadness to drive your violence, right? Blunt not the heart, enrage it. So he says it again, classic Shakespeare, right? Says it 3 times. He says the whetstone, the convert, and the enrage, right? So sadness becomes rage. There's another little bit of sexism here, I'm afraid, so we'll have to deal with this. Macduff? What does that mean? I could play the woman with my eyes. I could play the... Go on. Yeah. He's like, oh, I could cry. I could be like a crying woman. Because, of course, in these days, women cried and men didn't cry. Right? Men were like this. No, right? Women cry about everything. So I could be the woman. I could cry.
And a gentle heaven, cut all short intermission, front to front, bring down this stream of Scotland on my front. Within my soul's length, set me, if you escape, heaven forgive me, please.
Yeah. So Macbeth says, oh, I could cry, right? To be a braggart with my tongue. A braggart is someone who speaks a lot. So I could cry and I could rant that heaven, this is what I will do. Front to front, right? Face to face with Macbeth. So I don't want to cry, I don't want to rant, I want just pure revenge, right? I want to meet him face to face and kill him, right? Now, of course, remember, this is honour, right? So he wants to kill Macbeth, but he wants to do it the honourable way, okay? Face to face. Does that remind you of anything? Yeah? Well, he does, right? At the start. So the very beginning of the play, so it's a link to 1.2, right? And Macbeth, can you still see this? Macbeth v. MacDonald. The first thing we have about Macbeth is that he, at war, he goes up to MacDonald, face to face, and splits him in half. And we're supposed to remember that Macbeth used to be like Macduff, right? So it's a reminder of how Macbeth has changed. He used to be this, right? So Shakespeare's trying to remind us about this changing Macbeth. How did somebody that was so honourable become what he is now? And therefore, could this happen to Macduff? Could this happen to any one of us? Okay? Tragedies only work if we also accept that the same thing could happen to us. So even if you think you're a good person, could you be led into evil? Right? That's the point of it. Within my sword's length, set him. Okay? So, literally within the length of a sword. So he wants to be close to him. Malcolm. This tune goes manly. Woo! What a manly thing to say. Right? So I like the sound of what you're saying. It's manly. Come, we go to the king. Our power is ready. So the power is the army. Our lack is nothing but our leave. Macbeth is ripe for shaking, right? So like a tree with fruit, if we shake him, we'll get the fruit down, right? So the time, it's the right time. And the powers above put on their instruments. Receive what cheer you may. The night is long that never finds the day. Okay, so the night, of course, is Macbeth. So sort of the darkness of Macbeth with the day, which is Malcolm and the army. So he says, right, good. So Macduff is going to kill Macbeth, and Malcolm says, right, okay, let's go. The army is ready. We are ready. Let's go and do this. Right. That's the end of Act 4. Now Act 5 is all about the final battle. Okay, so the army goes up and they fight Macbeth. I won't do any spoilers. Right, one of them wins. Who knows? Who knows who wins? Okay,